Hi, I'm Betsy. I worked at SpaceX for 4 years, and I was the business partner for the launch engineering team. And today we're going to talk about the recent SpaceX Demo 2 launch. Before every single launch, we all gather in front of mission control and we count down together and we cheer. I get chills just thinking about it. The reason why SpaceX was founded was its mission to colonize Mars. And so that was in 2002. And then a couple of years later, NASA began discussions around retiring the shuttle program. And they were really focused on deep space travel. And so they were pouring too much money into the shuttle program, and they decided it would be most cost efficient to contract that out to private companies. So NASA provided contracts to both SpaceX and Boeing to develop spacecraft that would take the astronauts to the space station. 2011 was the last time NASA flew to the space station. And then since then, the United States has sent their astronauts over to Russia to fly on the Russian Soyuz to get to the ISS. So in the interim, there's been this competition in who is going to be the first private provider that will take humans to space. This is something that has never happened before anywhere in the world. And so it was very exciting, but also very scary because both SpaceX and Boeing have done a great job of taking cargo to the space station, but that's really different than people. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley are the two astronauts that went up most recently. So Doug and Bob were chosen because they are test pilots and they've learned how to use new hardware before. They have been at SpaceX in the office over the last 5-6 years, so we've seen them on a daily basis. So it's not uncommon for me to be sitting at lunch and just seeing the astronauts also there at lunch, and they're totally approachable. They love talking to people. And about a year ago, we had a Q&A with them, and someone asked, okay, well, what's one thing that you want us to remember while we're working on this mission? And I distinctly remember Doug said, we want you to remember that we have families and we want to come back alive. And that feeling just really sank in. What most people don't realize is it takes a million things for a rocket launch to go correctly, and it only takes one thing for it to explode. The first launch I saw that exploded in 2015, it was because there was a strut that got loose inside a tank and just bopped around, and then it exploded. People will call abort even till T-1 second. And that's why the success of this mission was really important, because everyone at the company has experienced failure and know what it's like to see cargo blow up. And so ensuring the safety of Bob and Doug was absolutely the top priority. People around the office often called them the dads, just to remember that they are actual people, that they are dads, and that this isn't just some new product that we're launching, that's actually people. They'll be on the ISS for a couple of months, and then they'll come back down, they'll splash down in the Atlantic. And there's a whole bunch of excitement that will be around that, because actually re-entering Earth is the most dangerous part. The cool thing about the Dragon spacecraft is that it is all touchscreen, and that's very different than any of the other shuttles that had a million buttons on them and looked straight out of the 80s. The inside of the Dragon capsule looks very much like a Tesla. And so there's tons of software engineers involved, and a lot of it is very autonomous. The ISS is circling around the Earth right now as we speak. And so it's in its own orbit, and it's in a low Earth orbit. There's an exact moment when the SpaceX rocket can launch and follow the trajectory that will lead it to the space station as the space station is in orbit. The ISS is 254 miles away from the Earth. The moon is 238,000 miles away. And while that's really far, when we think about the next planet that's closest to us, which is Mars, would be 94 million miles away. That's a significant difference. SpaceX's ultimate mission is to colonize Mars. It takes 6 months to get to Mars. So that is a long time to just be in a cramped spacecraft. And so it's going to take a lot to get to Mars. SpaceX believes that in 10 years, they will have a vehicle that is being sent to Mars. But the hardest thing about being able to get people on Mars versus the moon is Mars is a planet and the moon is not. So Mars has its own atmosphere that you have to penetrate to even get down into, just like the Earth does. And right now, there's no way for a rover with a person to be able to get down and then come back. So one of the biggest concerns with human travel to Mars is how are we going to get them back, because there's no structure for the rocket to take back off again. A lot of people have been talking about how there's so many things that we need to be fixing here on Earth. Why would we ever devote resources to leaving the planet? The wonder that comes with this incredible innovation is just really important to the human race in general. The idea that we can think beyond ourselves and go to new places, it's really, really big. And so when I think about this launch and I think about how America is back in this game of sending people beyond the Earth, it's really heartwarming.